Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video and welcome back to this channel. Actually having a functional camera. I'm sorry about the last 2 days. One of my cords stopped working. We had to use the webcam on Tier List Tuesday. Yesterday, no camera at all. But we got it fixed. We're back up and running. And today we are going to be looking at the top 10 best cap situations, team cap situations in the NHL. What sparked this was I saw Frank Saravalli post a couple of days ago that maybe the Carolina Hurricanes have the best cap situation, and I think that they have a great cap situation, especially after signing Stankoven and Jackson Blake to those long-term deals. Don't think it's the best. I probably put it in the thumbnail who I think is best. Carolina is going to be decently high within this top 10, but yeah, I thought it'd just be a fun idea to go through cap situation, the total cap sheet of these teams. When looking at it, I am going to be factoring in ELC. I obviously like a little bit more term on it than just say short term, 1 to 2 years at a great cap hit, because then you're going to have to pay that guy a decent amount. So yeah, also with this, what the team's timeline kind of matters to a degree. For example, the Tampa Bay Lightning or Vegas Golden Knights have a much shorter timeline than a team that's just coming out of a rebuild. So for win now teams, I'm not going to care as much if there's only 5 years on the deal versus 8, but a team that's going to be relevant for the next 8 to 10 years, I will care about term a little bit more. So yeah, it's not a perfect formula, but I think you can kind of understand it is kind of common sense, and we're going to go through it. So without further ado, at number 1, to the surprise of absolutely freaking nobody, it's the Florida Panthers. Just made a TikTok on this as well. They're just set beyond belief. Every single player within that top 10 has 5 years on their deal. They're all right now at fantastic cap hits. Barkov, $10 million for a top 10 player in the NHL. Reinhart, back-to-back insane seasons. Forsling, $5.75 million for a top 20 defenseman. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Even on this top 12, like, I couldn't fit Luosterainen that has 2 years left at $3 million. Nico Mikkola has 1 year left at $2.5 million. It's crazy what Bill Zito has done with this team. The one bad contract, and again, come playoff time, it's not bad at all, but Bobrovsky has 1 year left at $10 million. He's probably going to take like $5 to $6 million next season. It is ridiculous the way that the Florida Panthers are structured right now in terms of how good it is. Like, I previously was concerned about what they might potentially do after Bobrovsky, but they're going to have so much savings and so much cap space where they're going to be able to sign some top fish if a top fish does become available in terms of unrestricted free agency, or just trade a first round pick and a prospect to get a guy that's on a team that wants to head towards a rebuild or a retool. So yeah, the next 5 years, they're going absolutely nowhere. They're going to continue to dominate the NHL. In second place, I do have the Carolina Hurricanes, and a lot has to do with the Stankoven and Jackson Blake extensions. We'll start up top. Seth Jarvis has solidified himself as a 75-ish point, one of the best defensive wingers in the NHL. You're getting him for basically his entire prime. He still hasn't even hit his prime, and you're really getting him for $7.4 million. Slavin's 8-year deal at 6.4 is ridiculous for a top 10 defenseman. Sebastian Aho, he gets paid a decent amount, but he's still a $10 to $11 million player. And yes, Stankoven, I think worst case is like a 55-point winger at $6 million. That's nothing between his age 23 through 30 seasons. The same thing goes for Jackson Blake, another 2021 draftee. Nikolai Ehlers, very good contract, at least the first 3 to 4 years of that. Gothisbehere, surplus values there. And Akishin, 1 year below $1 million on his ELC. Svechnikov, I'm not the biggest Svechnikov guy of all time, especially if you watch my 2018 redraft. But for a guy, a good top 6 forward, $7.75 million for his age 25 through 28 seasons. Pretty damn good. Taylor Hall, 3 years, 3.16. He fit like a glove offensively, at least for the Carolina Hurricanes, as well as Anderson, 1 year, 2.75. Chatfield's a very good solid second pair, very good third pair defenseman at $3 million, as well as some other guys like Eric Robinson signed a 4-year deal at 1.7. Sean Walker has 4 years at 3.6. Carrier, 5 years, $2 million. Kochetkov, 2x2. The one Matt contract that I think does have some risk is obviously Miller's 8x7.5, and their one objectively bad contract is Kakadiemi, 5 years, $4.82 million. But yeah, they're set. A lot of these guys are below, basically all these guys are below the age of 30, besides Anderson and Slavin's either 30 or 31. They're not going anywhere the next 5 years as well, and they have a very good prospect pool on top of that. They're absolutely loaded. It starts to get interesting, in my opinion, at the number 3 spot. I personally went with the Tampa Bay Lightning. When looking at them, that Hagel deal after the season that he had, what do you have, 35 goals, 0 of them were on the power play, 90 points, $6.5 million for 26 years old. That kind of production, insane. Point still has 5 years at 9.5. Kucherov has 2 years at 9.5, where he's going to be a top 7 player in the NHL. Cirelli, one of the better defensive centers in the entire NHL, one of the better second-line centers in the NHL, 6.25, locked up for the rest of his prime. Gensel, 6 years, $9 million. There might be some age risk at the end, but right now is a $10.5 million 40 and 40 guy. Maybe not 10, but 9.75 to 10. Vasilevsky, 3 years, 9.5. This year proved yet again he's well worth that contract and is one of the best top 3 goalies in the NHL. Nick Paul, one of the best third-line centers in the NHL, been around the 40 to 45-point guy at only 3.15. Yanni Gourde, the insane term on that, but the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to get a $3 to $4 million player for only 2.33. Hedman, still an elite top 12 to 13 defenseman in the NHL. There might be some age risk there, but I think for the first 2 years, going to be a $9.5 million guy. Geeky on his ELC. I think he's going to take a step and become an NHL regular this season for below $1 million. McDonough last year was a 7.5 to 8 mil. I don't see him falling off that much. As well as Oliver Bjorkstrand. There's really no bad deals right now in Tampa Bay. Like Chernak has 5 years at 5.2 left. But I think that's like solid. I don't think that's some kind of steal, but it's not some kind of atrocity by any means. So Tampa's an amazing spot going forward in terms of their salary cap. And again, don't have to pay anybody the next 2 years. Besides, McDonough's probably going to get a 3-year deal at $5 million, probably a pay cut. Kucherov's going to want some more, but that's not till 2 years from now. Very good cap situation for the Tampa Bay Lightning. At number 4, I went with the Dallas Stars. Miro Heiskanen, top 10 defenseman in the NHL, only getting 8.45 for the next 4 years. Basically the rest of his prime until he's 30 years old. Wyatt Johnston, 5 years, 8.4. You would have liked to get a little bit more term on that, but he's already like an $8.4 million player and is only 22 years old. Rantanen, 8 years, $12 million. I think a full season on the Dallas Stars, and we saw the flashes obviously in the playoffs. He's going to be well worth that. Ottinger, this year I think regular season playoffs solidified himself as a top 6 to 7 goalie in the NHL and still is only 26 years old as a 2017 draftee. Rupe Hintz, low end, solid first line center, only 8.5 for his prime. Thomas Harley, this is kind of tough because like this year obviously is like an $8 to $9 million guy, maybe even more. They are going to have to pay him though. That's a little bit unfortunate, but for a team that is win now, cup or bust, awesome value. Lindell, still amazing defensively. There is some age risk with that, but it's still a lot of surplus value. Maverick Bork, for some reason, took a $950,000 contract, despite in his rookie year being like a 28-point good bottom sixer. Robertson, 1 year at 7.75. Same thing with Harley. This year's going to be big surplus, but they are going to have to pay him. Liam Bichelle still on his ELC. And Casey DeSmith, 2 years, $1 million, had a 9.15 last year for the Dallas Stars. One of the most cost-efficient, or probably the most cost-efficient backup in the entire NHL. They also have Jamie Benn on a 1x1. There are some bonuses with that deal. Sam Steele's on a 2x2.1. Very solid bottom sixer. Radek Faksa has 3 years at $2 million. And Colin Blackwell, 2 years, $775K. All pretty solid deals. There is one objectively kind of bad deal, which is Tyler Seguin, 2 years at $9.85 million. Tyler Seguin's still a very good player. When healthy, he can get you like 60 to 65 points. Not remotely close to 9.85, though. And I'm not too big on Labushkin's 2-year deal at a 3.25, but not some kind of disaster. If they didn't have Seguin on the books, I might give them the edge over the Tampa Bay Lightning, but that deal is just objectively $3-ish million of negative value, $3 to $4-ish million of negative value. Meanwhile, Tampa doesn't really have a bad deal like that. I forgot to mention Duchesne's 4x4.5, which is going to be ridiculous in the next 2 years. At number 5, I have the Colorado Avalanche actually here. They're in a very good spot. McKinnon's on one of the best contracts in the NHL. I know that he's like the 3rd highest paid guy, but he's a top 2 player in the NHL, getting $12.6 million for the next 6 seasons. The rest of his prime, I expect he's going to age very well. McCarr, unfortunately, only has 2 years. It's at $9 million. It's insane value, though. Nichushkin, when he's actually on the ice, he's awesome at $6.125 million for the next 5 years. He's a 65 to 70 point defensive demon. Lehkonen, 2 years. Unfortunately, it's only 2 years, but $4.5 million for a guy that has consistently been around the 60 to 70 point guy when healthy. Mackenzie Blackwood's deal, I was a little bit skeptical at the time because he fluctuated a decent amount. He was very good on the Colorado Avalanche. He's a top 20 goalie in the NHL. Definitely a starter at this point for low-end starter money at $5.25 million. Devontae's did take a little bit of a step back. I don't think this is some like next level kind of steal, but still should be a good top pair guy the next 3 to 4 years before the aging curve really starts. $7.25 million. Logan O'Connor, one of the best defensive bottom sixers in the NHL. You lock him up at a very reasonable 2.5. Wedgwood this year, $1.5 million. He was awesome for Colorado with like a 9.10. Martin Necas, unfortunately, 1 year. Next year is going to be big surplus value, but then you're probably going to have to pay him like $9 to $10 million. But yeah, next year it's 6.5. Landeskog can really make or break this. If he comes out of the gates playing amazing, I could see you putting them as high as $3 million, considering he's still only, 30 years old, 31 years old. At $7 million, if he can yet again be a very good top six forward or maybe even a first liner, that's a steal. There is some uncertainty with that, obviously. Brock Nelson, 3 by 7.5. Not too high on that deal, if I'm going to be honest, but he should be solidly worth that. And then Ross Colton, 2 years, $4 million. Similar to Tampa Bay, there's really no contract on this team where you think it's that bad. Mainly it is just that top two is like insane surplus value for those contracts. And I think the top six is also very good. Maybe not as much depth within their salary cap situation because some of their guys have a little bit of shorter term like Necas, but still very good cap situation for the Colorado Avalanche. And I think for the next 3 to 4 years, they're going to be a premier contender. They unfortunately maybe don't have the future that they once had because they traded a lot of future assets, but they're locked in for at least the next 2 years for sure to be a top tier contender. At number 6, going with the Ottawa Senators. Again, talking about the top two, there's not much better top two duos in terms of contracts than Sanderson and Tim Stützle. Stützle's what, until he's 29 years old? Sanderson's till he's 30 years old at only $16.4 million combined. That is absolutely insane, especially for Ottawa, a team that's could be highly competitive in the next 2 years. When Batherson's only making $4.98 million, Jesus, and Tkachuk has 3 years. So like they're a team that's entering their window now. Their top 2 stars are locked up. Jordan Spence next year at 1.5 is a ridiculous deal. Zub also 2 years at 4.6, one of the most underrated defensemen in the NHL. Shabbat, $8 million is a fair for him, a very good offense defenseman behind Sanderson. Had a very good analytical season last year. Ridley Gregg, 4 years, 3.25. For a solid middle sixer, I think that's going to be a lot of surplus value. Olmark, 8.25. There is some age risk with that, but he's been about as consistent as it comes in the regular season, especially for Ottawa. You were happy to give him that contract compared to what you've dealt with prior in terms of goalies. Shane Pinto's only 1 year, but $3.75 million a steal. I'm very high on the Zetterlund contract, and then Lars Ehler as well. When looking at the Ottawa Senators, the Dylan Cousins one is a huge question mark with this. If he's the player that he was after he got traded to the Ottawa Senators with 16 points in 21 games, that's surplus value. 5 years, $7.1 million. I still can't put that because it was such a small sample size, but that deal is definitely looking better right now. David Perron has 1 year at $4 million, which he didn't really live up to expectations his first year. And also Claude Giroux's dirt cheap deal that has a lot of bonuses in it is very good value for them. The Ottawa Senators are in a really good spot compared to a couple years ago where they had some pretty shit contracts on their hands. They're in one of the best spots, mainly because they have 2 core pieces as the salary cap continues to explode. Again, $16.4 million for those 2 guys. You're going to start seeing one guy get $16 million relatively soon. At number 7, the Washington Capitals don't quite have like the superstars locked up long term, but they just have like everybody locked in at a pretty reasonable number that's going to age fantastic. Those top 2, some of the best deals in the NHL, especially for 3 to 4 year deals. Protas, $3.38 million for a guy that had like 60 even strength points last year. Dylan Strome proved himself to be a point per game #1 center. I think he's probably only going to be in the 70s next year, but still, for $5 million, that is ridiculous value. I'm decently high in Rasmus Sandin. Very good second pair guy locked up for 4 more years at 4.6. Thompson looks like he's going to be a consistent top 12 to 14 goalie in the NHL at sub $6 million compared to what some other guys are going to get relatively soon. Awesome value. Leonard's still on his ELC. That's going to help them out big time as they continue to try to compete at a high level. Connor McMichael, you're going to have to pay him, but next year, $2.1 million. Are you kidding me? PLD, this time last year looked like one of the worst contracts in the NHL. This year around like 65 points. Awesome defensive numbers. Where now he's only 27 years old. Looks like a pretty solid deal. Same thing goes for Tom Wilson. When he signed that deal, I thought it was going to be horrendous. He's aged very good. Had like his best offensive season last year at only $6.5 million. And obviously he's like, besides Ovechkin, the heart and soul of the Washington Capitals. Next up, we got Martin Feravari, whose deal does not kick in until the following year. Next year, I think he's only making like $2.7 million or like $3 million. So like that's also amazing value. But then he gets a 7-year deal at $6 million. Similarly to Sandin, I think he's going to be a very good second pair guy. for his age, 25 to 32 seasons. That's awesome value. Chikrin, I was a little bit shocked at the time when it happened. I still don't love the contract, but again, with the context of the salary cap going up and all that stuff, I think it's going to be a solid deal, especially as he continues to take that role as the number one defenseman over for John Carlson, who still has 1 year left at $8 million. Still is a top 25 defenseman in my book, so I think that's very good value for next season. And then in terms of the top 12, we finish out with Matt Roy, another guy I keep on saying second pair defenseman, but he's been a good second pair defenseman his entire career, and at only $5.75 million. That's pretty solid. Other deals, Ovechkin has 1 year left at 9.5. If he plays like he did last season, that's surplus value. There's a chance that he does not have quite the same goal scoring numbers. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, 1 year, $3 million, perfectly solid. Nick Dowd, 2 years, $3 million, very good bottom sixer for them. Anthony Beauvillier, 2 years, 2.75. I like that deal. The only deal that I'm maybe not as high on it, just because he kind of stunk last season, and it goes to show, if this is their worst deal, they're in a fantastic spot. But Charlie Lindgren, 3 years, $3 million is not exactly fantastic right now. I think he had an 894 last year, but he can probably still be a serviceable backup. I think he's going to somewhat bounce back and put up an 898, 900. He doesn't have to be amazing at that number. At number 8, I'm going with the Montreal Canadiens. They did exactly what I like rebuilding teams to do. Once their young guys show some promise, you freaking give him an 8-year deal. It worked out fantastically with Nick Suzuki as well as Cole Caulfield. Those are awesome deals. They have Demidov and Hudson still on ELCs. I don't think that they're going to at least next season compete at a high level where they're going to win the Stanley Cup with Hudson on the ELC. I would really like if Hudson signed some deal below $9.25 million long term. They might be even higher on this list. But yeah, those ELCs are steals. Slavkovsky still definitely needs to string together a full season of 60 plus points, but he's still pretty young. He's only 21 years old, has put up back-to-back 50-point seasons, where I think he's definitely going to be worth that 7.6, but it's not a foregone conclusion at this point. Caden Gooley, his 6-year deal is kicking in. All he has to be is a very good second-pair guy to be well worth that behind Lane Hudson. Montembeault still has 2 years left at $3.15 million. Dobson, I think it's going to be an okay deal. By no means a steal. They did pay him a decent amount as well as trading him for a decent amount. That doesn't factor into this, but I think that deal is going to be about solid. Besides that, nobody else really on this team is locked up that much in terms of 3+ years. They have Jake Evans, good bottom six penalty killer. Bull Duke still on his ELC. Doc, 1 year's $3.25 million. If he can stay healthy, he's definitely going to be worth that. Carrier, 2 years, $3.75 million. There are some bad contracts on the Montreal Canadiens, of course. Patrick Laine is not worth $8.7 million. That's only for 1 more year. Anderson and Gallagher, 5.5 and 6.5. That's only for 2 more years. If they were a team that was more in their window, I definitely would ding them more for those shitty contracts. But again, as we talked about at the start of this, I don't think that they are going to be Stanley Cup or bust the next 2 years, where I'm not going to kill them compared to if the Tampa Bay Lightning had those two deals on their books. I care more about Suzuki having 5 years, Caulfield having 6 years, Slavkovsky 8 years. So yeah, Montreal is in a very good long-term spot, and they're a team, although they made the playoffs last year, that are thinking more long-term at this point. Kent Hughes hasn't signed some deadly long-term extension or long-term free agency deal that has really hurt this team. So as a result, they're in a really good spot. And if Slavkovsky really breaks out next season, if Dobson goes for 60 points while playing the second power play, they're probably going to be top 5, maybe even top 4 on this list. If they sign Hudson to the extension sooner rather than later, assuming that he continues to develop, they're in a very good spot right now, and they're probably only going to go up, barring anything bad, but I don't think that's going to happen. At number 9, Maple Leafs. When looking at it 2 to 3 years ago, especially when the salary cap was flat, they were probably in the 20s in terms of best contract structures, but now the salary cap is going up. Now that Matthew Nyes, they somehow got him at 6 years, $7.75 million. John Tavares went from $11 million all the way down to $4.39. The Wold deal looks fantastic. Nylander and Matthews, both a superstar and a star player. They're worth that contract as long as they can stay healthy. Tanev, there's too much term on it, but I think we can agree he's probably going to end up going on LTIR retirement. McCabe is 31 years old and is a very good second pair defenseman, playing 21 minutes a night. Well worth $4.51 million. Still large. It's only 1 year, but it's going to be awesome value for a team that's trying to be cup or bust. Nick Waugh, the deal that they just acquired, 2 years, $3 million for a 35, 40 point third line center, pretty solid. Carlo, $3.49 million. If he bounces back, that's going to be great value on the right side. Michelli, if he's in your top six, he can get you 55 to 60 points at only $3.43 million. Scott Laughton struggled a decent amount on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think he had 4 points in the regular season and like 1 point come playoff time, but still at $1.5 million, a full season, a full training camp. I think he's going to be well worth that. Other deals that they have that I like, Bobby McMahon, 1 year at 1.35. They have Domi, 3 years, 3.75. OEL, 3 years, 3.5. The bad deals / risky deals, Morgan Riley's deal is just like bad. 5 years, $7.5 million. Dakota Joshua, I think he is going to bounce back considering he had cancer at the start of last year, but 3 years, 3.25. He was not worth that last season. Callie Yarncroc, 1 year, 2.1. Not really worth that. David Kampf, 2 years, 2.4. Definitely not worth that. But yeah, Toronto's in a pretty damn good spot. Salary cap wise, the top 2 deals are utter steals. The rest listed here are pretty damn good. And I think the 9 spot is a pretty fair spot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then lastly, former Toronto Maple Leaf, Mitch Marner and his team, the Vegas Golden Knights. Shea Theodore, he is like 29 or 30 years old, but at $7.43 million. Awesome value. Hurdle was amazing this year for the Vegas Golden Knights, considering San Jose ate some of his money. He's only making $6.75 million. Carlson might be the best third-line center in the NHL at $5.9 million. Mitch Marner, $12 million. Just got to hope that he plays better in the playoffs because he's well worked that in the regular season. Mark Stone, only 2 years. Some of these guys have shorter term, like Stone, like Eichel, like Dorofeyev. Dorofeyev's deal's insane, $1.84 million, where that does kind of hold them back because the term isn't quite there. But as I talked about before, they are like a win now team. Hannafin's deal is solid. He's a solid top pair guy. Yeah, they're in a very good salary cap situation. Other deals for the Vegas Golden Knights that could potentially have made it. Saad and Smith are only at $2 million each for next season, as well as, actually, those are the only good ones. The risky-ish ones are Aiden Hill. Doesn't quite have the longest track record in terms of being a starting goaltender, has 6 years at $6.25 million. But besides that, Vegas is in a pretty damn good spot in terms of their salary cap situation. So that is the full list. It goes the Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, the Ottawa Senators, the Washington Capitals, the Montreal Canadiens, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Vegas Golden Knights. Just did it off the top of my head. Also, I did want to go over some of the teams that almost made it. I almost put them in the 9 or the 10 spot. The Winnipeg Jets, Hellebuck, Scheifele, Morrissey, amazing deals there. Hellebuck and Scheifele have like 5 or 6 years left at $8.5 million. Morrissey only a couple years left at $6.25. That's one of the best defenseman deals in the NHL. Velarde's new deal is pretty good. I wanted them to go a little bit longer term with Sandberg, 3 by 5.75. Still pretty good. Connor has 1 year at 7. Besides that, there's not a ton of other forwards that are locked up long term, so I ended up not going with them. The Utah Mammoth, they have a couple notable long-term deals. Gunther's that kicks in now, 8 by 7.1 is ridiculous. I think the Peterka deal is a good deal. I'm not as high on it as others. Sergachev's 8.5 looks very reasonable now. Keller still has 2 or 3 years left at 7.1, but they don't have a ton of long-term deals where I ended up not going with them. Minnesota Wild, this time last year probably would have been on it, but the Faber 8 by 8.5 that's kicking in, I'm not as high on it nowadays. Kaprizov now only has 1 year left. Boldy, Eriksson Ek, insane steals, $7 million for like 5 more years. Eriksson Ek's like 4 more years at 5.25. But until I see that Marco Rossi new contract, if he has a new contract with the team, or if I see a Gustafsson extension, I didn't quite feel confident. He still has 1 year left at 3.75. Great deal, but could not quite put them on there. The St. Louis Blues have a bunch of very good contracts when looking at Jordan Kyrou and Thomas, both locked up at around $8.1 million. Holloway has 1 more year at $2.2 million, and if they extend them on something good, maybe I would put them at the 10 spot. The New Jersey Devils, their 3 best forwards are on fantastic contracts. Jack Hughes still has 5 years left, or 6 years left at $8 million. Bratt still has 6 at $7.8 million. Heischer only has like 2 or 3 years left at 7.4. Rest of their contracts aren't very good, though. Like the Palat, the Dougie Hamilton deal is kind of shit at $9 million for a guy that's so injury-prone every single year. I still almost put them, again, because of the surplus value from Hughes, Brad, and Heischer, but I ended up not opting for them. And then the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, they have Darnell Nurse, who is absolute ass, and yes, they're still paying like $2.6 million in buyout money to Jack Campbell. But the Draisaitl deal is looking pretty damn good, even though he's going to be the highest paid player in the NHL. He was the best skater in the NHL last year in the regular season. McDavid, if an extension came in from McDavid that was sub $15 million, I probably would put them within the top 10, but we don't have that yet. RNH and Hyman are still only making like $5-ish million for the next 3 to 4 years. I do like the Bouchard 4 by 10.5. Wallman still has 1 year left at 3.4. It's a lot more shorter term deals outside of Draisaitl, so I ended up not going with them. And yeah, those are my 6 teams that I kind of considered for this. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? I'm probably not going to do a worst version of this just because like most teams do have solid to good contracts on the books. It will be a little bit nitpicking, diving into making like a top 10 worst. So I think I might do some kind of Instagram of like a 4-part series. You guys have obviously basically just seen the first 2 parts, considering I just gave you 11 through 16 of not the order, but who would probably be on that. But maybe I'll do that on Instagram. But anyway, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? We're really in the off season at this point. Feel free to either drop a comment on this video, DM me on Instagram for video ideas. I'm open to anything. Yeah, I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.